arm going down to my side.
We heard his story or stories, depending upon your perspective, right, of what he said on audio tape, on videotape, at the scene, in the police car. What was your story? What was your story? Everyone's wondering, well, what was the prosecution theory of what actually happened?
Our belief as to what happened, he chased down Trayvon Martin. He wanted to make sure Trayvon Martin did not get away. He felt Trayvon Martin was headed towards the back, which is normally what had happened in the prior cases where the guys had gotten away that allegedly had committed crimes. He was going to make sure that Trayvon Martin didn't get away and was going to be there when the police got there. Why would he be lying about something? Something minor like trying to get an address.
He didn't know the name of the street. And then when they just kind of let him talk,
I guess it's Twin Trees Lane.
he gives the name right there. Why is he having to lie about the whole thing?
I mean, I thought that was blatantly, obviously a lie. And when I was talking to the jury, when I was arguing to the jury, I saw them nodding their heads, so.
Self-defense cases. Usually the defendant has to get on the witness stand to tell that story, which then makes it much easier to pick apart a story because he gets cross-examined. You guys put his story in front of this jury. Did you consider figuring out a way that you could compel him to testify?
We debated whether to put on a story, quite frankly, and what we would have been left with is evidence shows that he had a gun and the gun shot him, but then we have inconsistent witnesses. So we felt his lies were so blatant that it would be obvious to people that he's making up a story. But you're right. Normally you want to get the defendant on the stand and you want to be able to
you wanted him on the stand, Bernie.
Believe me, I was dying to have him on the stand. I thought at one moment he would.
Were you going to cross-examine him?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And I thought it was a show when he acted like his attorneys, oh, he really wanted to get on there.
Have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in the case?
I object to that question. I think that's Mr.
Overruled. Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
No, not at this time.
The problem you have is that there was enough evidence, even though I would argue it was insignificant or very little, that there was self-defense. You had John Good, you had other people. So they were going to be able to get an instruction as to self-defense. And once we knew that was coming on, we felt we needed to put his statement on and just disprove it.
And you had the injuries. And the injuries indicate there was some sort of a struggle. Our position all along, we never said that Trayvon didn't do something to George Zimmerman. What we said is you can't take a concealed weapon and encourage or incite a fist fight, which is what he did by stalking a teenager who didn't know who he was, and then whip your gun out and shoot. And that's what he said. I just got my gun out and shot him. Never explaining the details of how he was able to pull his gun if he was being beaten as brutally as he claimed. And so we had to put all of that in, and then we clearly refuted it with the physical evidence. No DNA on Trayvon Martin's hands, who supposedly were covering his bloody nose. You know, so many other things. And those lies were put in front of the jury, one after the other after the other. And in addition, in proving the mindset, the accusation that we overcharged is ludicrous in light of the evidence. What citizen who's just defending himself writes the word suspect in a written statement 24 times unless he thinks he's the police officer trying to describe how he was attempting to apprehend a suspect and then had to fight him off and kill him? That's police jargon.
The screams.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your...
What did you think the first time you heard it?
As soon as I heard those screams, it sounded like a young male's voice to me. And as soon as I heard that the screaming stopped, the minute the bullet was fired, the second the bullet was fired, I knew it was the victim's voice. That was one of the most compelling aspects of this case and in our decision to charge George Zimmerman with second-degree murder.